What up, roomies? Tonight's guest has built one of the biggest online communities in the spiritual space, reaching hundreds of thousands of people through psychic readings, mediumship, and spiritual education. But what really caught my attention wasn't the numbers, it's the way she connects to complete strangers online, often giving deeply personal readings to people she's never met before. Whether you believe in psychic abilities or you're simply curious on what might exist beyond what we can explain, today is about asking questions. Welcome to In the House, Allison Carmany. How you
Hello.
doing?
I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. Like when you first reached out to me, I did some research on you, and you touched hundreds of thousands of people, and you've blown their minds, and it's insane because I've spoken to like a couple of mediums, and they all have their ways of doing things, but you've put it out there every single day, keep
Yeah.
reaching people, and and I really don't know how to express like how much hope you give people sometimes. Because
Oh, thank you.
when people, especially if it's random, like, and this is from a personal experience, like I've seen like mediums and I've seen like psychics and all that in my darkest times, and they've given me hope. And sometimes that little bit of hope lets you keep pushing on, even when the even when times is looking great. So thank you
Yeah.
for spreading that out in the world.
Oh, I love that.
So like So, like, before we even start, what's like the biggest misconception people usually have about psychic mediums?
Well, so I've been studying spirituality and the mystical and trying to figure out answers for 35 years. And this psychic ability just came to me through, and where I started to see spirits. So it's not something I was seeking out. It more just came to me. And um, and one of the things is that this is a normal occurrence. This is normal to be able to feel something beyond the five senses. But we're told not to, and we're suppressed to trust our intuition, trust our gut. And really, in this day and age, we're going to have to do more of that because we're going to have to use a lot more discernment with AI and everything that's coming out in the world.
True, I got you on that. So, like, when did this all start for you? Like, and I know that you said that we're suppressed. So, do you also believe that everybody has an ability or is able to tap into like sort of like a sixth sense or like extra ability that may be out of body?
Absolutely, 100%. Everybody should be able to tap into this sixth sense because it's a normal thing. So what happens is when we descended down here as souls, right? We're spirit in physical form. We descended down here. We started to believe more in the five senses than the extrasensory abilities, which is the ability to see something beyond the physical, to hear, to know, to feel. Those are all the sixth sense abilities. And it's through that we connect to the higher energy that gives us more purpose for being here.
I got you on that. So, like, so when did it start for you? When did it like you have that first like woohoo moment, kind of?
So in 2020, once I couldn't distract myself with all the million things I was doing, I had hit a rock bottom in my life at that point in time. I got a divorce. My kids went to 50-50, and I had all this time on my hands and really went through a dark night of the soul. And it was through that, I have been doing coaching. It was through that I was working with somebody. They were going through a hard time. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I saw a spirit. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, somebody's here. She's got a purple dress on. She's got a hat, and she's showing me a pearl earrings. She's like, that's my Aunt Pearl. I was like, what? And then I was like, somebody else is here, and they're arguing about money. And she's like, that's my mom and Aunt Pearl. All they did was argue about money. And that was my first like occurrence with seeing these spirits. And it was kind of like that movie Ghost where you see.
Yeah.
And most people don't see. So more people have more of a knowing or hearing something. So, but this was really strange for me and scary. So then somebody told me about the school. I just like went to the school to go check it out so I could get some answers because I had nobody to talk to about. I felt like I was going crazy. And so it was there I arrived in. It's called Lilydale, New York, and it's a little town of spiritualism where there's fourth and fifth generation psychic mediums. And there, as soon as I got there, it felt like home. Like I felt like understood, seen. And it was there that I did 2 years of school to study the psychic mediumship, to know more of what was going on in my experience. I didn't necessarily want to do it with people.
No, I get you what you mean. I get exactly what you mean. And you said that actually seeing it is rare and more people just have like a feeling or a hearing.
Yeah. So it's not as likely that someone's going to see something. And when I say I see something, sometimes, like I'm telling the viewer so they understand, it's more, you can see something in the physical form or you can see it in your inner eye. So your third eye, see it in your inner eye.
No, I get you. Wow. So, that's crazy because like I know that like most people have like a feeling of like something being around them, or they get like
Yes.
a little inkling of intuition that they probably have like a spirit next to them, or like somebody that loves them, like is watching over them. So for you to actually see it, that's crazy. And do people appear, and in your mind's eye, do people appear as they deceased, or more like any version of them throughout their life?
Yeah. So it's crazy. It is any version of them. So, but when I work as an evidential medium, so I always provide physical evidence so that the person can identify. It's like, well, can you connect with my angel, or can you connect with my guardian angel, or connect with this spirit guide? And I'm like, no, I work as an evidential because I can't prove that is, I can't give you evidence that you're going to identify. And so with this, the person generally gives me something that they were wearing when they passed, or something that the person, the sitter, would identify with. So it's like evidence that the person would say yes. Like a lot of times it's like, okay, that's what the person was wearing when they passed, a lot of times.
Okay, that's cool. So so when you were studying and all this, and you were developing your talents and your skills, did you ever say like, this is kind of like maybe a little bit too deep for me, or did you like fully embrace everything and just hold it?
Well, I'm a double Scorpio, so I like the deep depth. And I've always been someone that wants to go deep with people, like deep psychological. And so I've never been afraid of darkness within someone. I try to look for that part of them to bring it to light, to put light on it. So to me, it's like this depth. I've always been studying like this darkness because we have to understand the darkness to know the light. And that's kind of, there's no yin with yang. It's like they all coexist together. And if we can alchemize our darkness within ourselves, we can get to the other side of more light. I feel like the objective of this is always to get to more light, and to walk with the light. And it's through knowing the dark within us, that shadow side of ourselves, can we understand more of the light? Because I feel like that's demons. It's like we all have demons inside of us, like the side. It's like, and it's through understanding those demons can we like bring it to light and walk that path of light.
I get you. So when it comes to like developing, a person's natural abilities, their natural sixth sense, how important is it to, do your shadow work and confront those, things that may be dragging you down?
1,000%. Because the problem is that the shadow exists within us, within our field around us. And we're going to be triggered by people, places, events, all those things. And those things are going to trigger the shadow side within us, something unhealed within us. And so as we sort of know ourselves, accept ourselves fully, then only then can we be present with other people when maybe they don't like us or they're saying something we don't like. It's realizing that that's a mirror. We're experiencing reality and things that are happening that we're getting triggered by other people. It's not healed. So the other day I had someone come to me and tell me about a situation with their mom and the way that she spoke with people, whatever. They were very upset. And I said, the things that you're getting triggered by are things that are not healed with inside of you. There's something that you have a wound with. It's not to focus on what the other person is doing. It's to focus on what is going on with you as a result of what the other person's doing, right? Because you don't have control over the other person. You only have control over yourself. It's like, and what are you going to get triggered by? And instead of reacting, we want to respond to someone in a healed way. That's only with dealing with our own stuff.
I get you on that. And do you find that most people are triggered by things that they haven't healed from, or is it can like trauma transcend like lifetimes too? Like, let's say I'm triggered by something and it's not really from this life, but it's from like a past life or something of that nature.
That is a great question, because I watched this movie Heal.
Yeah.
And have you seen it?
No, I
haven't. It's on you can watch it on Amazon or Netflix. But basically they had these rats and they had them smell these cherry blossoms. And the moment they smelled the cherry blossoms, they would zap them and they'd go into the stress response. The next generation, they would just have them smell the cherry blossoms and they'd go into the stress response. So that shows that generational trauma is passed through the lineage in the DNA in the bloodline, right? So if we're just going to talk about just this lifetime of the lineage versus our soul lifetime, I'm sure there's more of that. But there is generational trauma that we're carrying in our bodies. And a lot of times, pretty much everyone watching this is probably the cycle breaker in their family. Why? Because there's someone that's curious and they're not accepting things as is. They're asking questions. It's kind of like if a family was alcoholic, everyone was alcoholic in the lineage line. It's like, then you start saying, I'm not going to be an addict anymore. I'm going to change. That's cycle breaking the line.
I get you on that. And do you find that I know that right now in like 2026, people are saying, a lot of more people are waking up. They're, upgrading. They're like finding higher frequencies to be in, and they're trying to find love more. Do you feel that, or have you seen that a lot more people are like the cycle breakers in their families and like the ones that are going to kind of like, I don't want to say lead their lineage out of darkness, but kind of like start paving that way to like, more love and like higher frequencies in that lineage?
Yes. So I feel that we're the first generation of light workers. Okay. Because our parents and generation before were in survival. And now we're the first to be able to get out of that emotional and physical survival, to be able to expand more and knowledge and information. And that we're seeking healing. We're seeking like to heal those wounds, right? And like that, we're the first people to be able to do that generationally, and that's breaking. And when we heal 7 generations in the past, 7 generations into the future in your lineage line. So that it actually, because there is in the physical reality, we see time as linear, but it's not linear. It's all happening all at once when you're in another dimension. And a lot of times when these people that have come through, of the people that have passed, what they're speaking about is things that they had to get over, things that they needed to heal. And they're coming through for their own healing, not for the person sitting in front of me, but through their healing, the other person can heal.
I get that. I get that. So, all right. So when it comes to developing these abilities, is it like a muscle that you could work out and it becomes stronger, or is it like you have like a certain threshold that you could go to? Maybe you could surpass it a little bit, but it's kind of like always gonna be like at that point, and you can never like really pass that.
Yeah. So first, I want to make sure that we're talking about psychic, because psychic is something that everyone it can tune into. The mediumship, that would take a whole other skill level, and like it's not something that really people necessarily seek out. But the psychic is something like a muscle, right? It's like the more you pay attention to that gut feeling, the more you don't override your mind with the feeling, you can get into the feeling of something or the knowing of something, trusting. The more you're trusting that, the more you're going to build that muscle,
Yeah.
because it's the mind that wants to kind of fight with you. Oh, everything looks good on paper with this partner, with this job, right? But
Yeah.
it's that feeling of feeling off that we a lot of times dismiss, and later it comes to truth, right? So it's like if we can really just tap into feeling more of that, but what do I feel? What does it feel like when I'm with this person? What does it feel like when I'm thinking about this job? And it's like that sort of thing is what we need to tap into to more follow our North Star, follow us, because the soul already knows the future. And it's being guiding us. It's guiding us to right now.
I got you. And so, what's the key difference between like a psychic ability and what you would say like your gut feeling, your intuition?
So psychic and intuition is the same thing,
Okay.
right? But it's just a way that they use the language, right? But it's you're tapped in at another level. And I want to answer to your other question too, is like, how do you get to more tapped in? Is really through meditation, being with yourself, sitting with yourself in silence or with music, whatever. That's really going to tap someone into the next level, because this is an innate thing that we're tapped into, that source energy, right? We can call it God, oneness. If you're born into a different religion, you call it something different, right? But it's the source of energy that we came from, right? And what happens is that we get disconnected from it. So it's like a fish in water. We don't know we're connected to it, right? But we have to get rid of all the static, all the noise to get reconnected back to it.
Okay.
And when we do that, then we're connected back in, and we feel like, ooh, like I got the answer. It's a download.
Okay. So, why do you, in your opinion, right? Why do you think that like society pushes us to look to look outside of ourselves instead of inside of ourselves? Because because like the whole, I don't want to generalize it, but whenever I speak to people and they tell me you have to look inward, you got to be one with yourself, you got to talk, be able to sit with yourself and actually hear your like inner voice.
Yeah.
That resonates with not just me but with everyone. They're
Yeah.
like, that's true, and a lot of people are scared to be with that inner voice because they're going to confront their shadows.
Yeah.
But why do you think like society as a whole pushes exterior versus interior?
Well, this is the thing, is society is run by money and power. So where would more money is, if you're disconnected from yourself, you're going to spend more money. You're going to be lost, and you're going to have to follow, right? So it's natural for like the powers to be to want you disconnected from your own energy, from your own power, right? Because if you're connected to your power and you really know who you are and you're tapped into your intuition, you're like, doesn't feel right.
No,
So this is our power. The biggest thing that we have towards any next pandemic or some natural disaster or something that happens is our connection to that source to know what to do next, right? So everyone's saying to do this, but that doesn't feel right. So if you're tapped in on another level, you can be listening. You can just know, hey, what's right for me? What's right for my neighbor isn't right for me. And that's the thing is that we are disconnected on a systemic level. And it's through our food, it's through our environment. Like everything is toxic, to cut us off from that deeper connection and the disconnection from our bodies. Intuition lives in your body. And the more you're tapped into your body, the more you're going to just know something's right or wrong.
I get that. And do you, all right. I have kind of like a little fun question on this one. Right?
Okay.
Do you think that, because of the fact that so many people are breaking out of cycles, and they're starting to develop their intuition, on a much deeper level than past generations, right? Do you think the powers to be kind of are sensing that as well? So that's why we're like in the current state, the world's in its current state right now.
So we are moving into, as a collective, the age of Aquarius. Okay. And that age of Aquarius is connected with awakening. So the powers to be know that, right? And they know we're awakening on a massive level. And I feel that they're just trying to slow it down. They know it's happening. And so I feel like there's two timelines happening. It's the timeline of the Great Awakening, which is us awakening. And at the same time, they have a timeline of the Great Reset. So who's going to be first the agenda, right? Are we going to awaken all as a collective first, or are we going to reset with their agenda, which we already know what their agenda is? It's very dark.
Yeah, very dark. All right. I get it. And so now let's say that somebody's gonna, start developing their intuition, their psychic abilities. What are like some mistakes that usually beginners make, and what are like the ideas they think that they're all right? What's the difference between like, all right, I'm gonna go develop my psychic abilities and I'm gonna, see into the future or use telekinesis or any of the, like, what's the reality versus like the Hollywood version of like if somebody wanted to, start working on their abilities?
Well, so it's learning to trust yourself. Okay. So it's learning to pay attention to the signs that you feel in your body, the information that you're receiving, and trust that, right? And the more you pay attention to that, the more you're going to be able to use that. I feel like it's hard. It's really hard. And I feel like I got into this work so I could trust myself more, to develop my ability to trust myself to making the right decision or making that. So how I see reality, okay, is that everything's energy. And the first language that we speak is energy. So before we say words, it's energy. And everything is at a vibrational frequency, right? And when I've been in this other dimensions, okay, according to science, there's 13 other dimensions. And that also, there's multiple timelines all coexisting at once. Yeah. But how I see the future for someone else, or someone else can see their future, is that these timelines exist all at once. Okay, but they exist at a certain vibration and frequency, but you're not able to access that vibration or frequency if you're at a lower vibration and frequency. And have you ever seen the scale of consciousness where it shows like emotions and then their number?
I've glimpsed at it, but I'm not too familiar. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, so there is a scale, and it is just like a triangle. And at the lower end of the triangle is negative emotions, shame, guilt, even anger is at a higher vibrational energy, right? So these are numbered. Then we've got the higher enlightened ones, which is like joy, love, authenticity is actually the highest vibrational frequency. Okay. And so what happens is I'm always asking the universe, bring me to my highest vibrational frequency, my highest timeline. Because when I'm at the higher vibrational frequency, I'm accessing that timeline where events can be more in alignment energetically for me, right? Because when I'm at a lower vibrational frequency, there's going to be more negative things that are occurring, that and more negative vibration brings more negative vibration,
Yeah.
right? So it's an energetic. So that's why a lot of times when we're in a lower state, we can't get up from it. We're like stuck in a cycle, right? And so we have to shift the way we think, what we believe, and the way we feel in order to start shifting to a higher frequency, which brings another timeline into existence. When I say timeline, it's like what events that are going to play for you. It's like every potential impossibility exists, but what occurs for you is where you're at vibrationally.
It's crazy because he literally read my mind. I was about to ask, how does one like kind of shift timelines and like get to like where they really want to be at? So all right, for instance, if you have like a certain idea of what you want in life and you want to shift to that timeline, how specific can you really get?
So, first of all, there's a couple steps. First of all, you have to be so aware of those unconscious thoughts, right? We've got the peanut gallery going on all times, and it's got negative narrative in the back, right? And it's self-criticism, judgment, negativity, right? That's constantly like looping, right? And that's a program. And our brain is neuroplasticity, right? So we can reprogram that brain because remember, that program is from outside. And it's from our what I call parents, preachers, teachers, right? And society is in general. So as we start to reprogram that program, we can change the thought process, the emotions, which determines what actions we take, right? So that's step one. And then we can use the law of attraction. Okay. And we want to use the imagination, which is something that's killed early on in life, to see that vision, see that potential possibility in the field, see that occurring, happening, right? But whether it determines whether it manifests or not, determines your energy state.
I
So
got you.
positive thinking doesn't work. Okay. It's like, oh, everything's great. Oh, but I can't pay my rent. Like my relationships are disaster, right? So it's
Yeah,
like, what is really that spiritual bypassing, right? So we have to think about what is really reality. Okay, if something sucks in our life, like we have to take a hard look at it and take 100% accountability and responsibility for it. And that's where people get messed up
okay.
because the reality is nobody wants to take responsibility why they are in the situation that they are, right? And it could be from the past and the trauma that you experienced, right? But the reality is you're not experiencing the trauma right now. You are the creator of your reality. So you want to get in the driver's seat or you want to be in the passenger seat as a victim to your life, right? So that is really what has to shift is we have to move into the creator, right? The driver's seat of our life. And so whatever's happened in the past does not equal the future. And we have to change that thought process in order to really change what we're creating right now. And so if I'm the creator of my life, then I'm going to have to change the thoughts that I'm thinking, the emotions that I'm experiencing, the beliefs that I have on a deeper root level to change my reality that I'm living. Right. And that is going to the unconscious, the subconscious to reprogram that so that, like, okay, somebody cuts me off in traffic. Okay. If I'm reacting to that, that is the same thought, the same emotions that I'm experiencing today is most likely the same thought that I had the day before that, right? So it's like, unless I change something in the present moment, nothing's going to change for reality.
I got you on that. And how about if a person, is, you know, for the most part, a positive person, they keep on looking for opportunities, they keep on trying to expand and change. but it's like this one block that keeps them like I don't want to say stagnate, but kind of keeps them a little down. Like, what does a
Okay.
person do for that?
So when that occurs, it's always a belief.
Okay.
So I've sat with thousands of people all over the world, every single race, religion, and it all comes down to if someone is having a challenge in their life, it's a belief. And maybe it's like, it's hard to make money. I won't ever be enough. I won't be loved. If I say what I really think, no one's going to like me. That is the deeper root that causes the person to be stuck. And when that shifts, that's when a different reality starts to show up. But that belief might be at a lineage level that the person can't even get to. So when I sit with someone, I always see the thread that's pulling through them. So through the whole family line. Okay. And maybe like it could be alcoholism. It could be hate. It could be betrayal. It could be so many different things that I sit with to see. And that what happens is because the mom and dad thought that before grandma thought that, all their experiences match that. What happens is it becomes invisible to the person and they start living out that belief and they don't know why they're living that reality.
Okay, I get you. I get that. So it would be more of, instead of that one person, is more of a deeper rooted cause. So how could, let's say for instance, the person who's existing now kind of like, not recover, but kind of like get over that belief and like break that cycle and, kind of flourish?
So the first step to changing anything is always awareness, right? So we have to be willing to look at something, right? If I'm an alcoholic and I don't know I'm an alcoholic, then I have to become aware of it first, because if not, I'm emotionally hijacked to have the drink. And I realize, okay, I am this, then I can have the drink or not have the drink. So that first step is awareness. Okay, like things aren't working out in my life the way they are. So what is it, that deeper belief that I must be believing about myself in order for this reality to manifest, right? And so that first step is scary, right? Because we have to sit with what's there and take accountability. But I always like this process of becoming aware of it, acknowledging it, and accepting it as it is. We're not looking to change it or make it different. We're more have to accept it and be with what's there in order to change something, right? Because I don't want to avoid feeling it. I want to be with that fully so I can accept it and release it.
Okay. I get it. So so when you're trying to change something, you have, or at least when you're trying to change a belief, you have to first acknowledge it, so that way you could go through the emotion, so that way you could get over the emotion.
Exactly. And the reality is emotion only lasts a couple seconds. Okay. If an emotion lasts longer than a couple seconds, it's a thought of the emotion and you're looping in that thought. And so a lot of times people are so afraid. We live in a society where we're so afraid of feeling, right? And we've got so many distractions so we don't have to feel, right? And society set up in the exact way for that, right? But if we just open the door and see the boogeyman's there and that's there and we're not afraid, like to face what's there, it's gone. It's completely gone. It's just the avoidance of it could take a lifetime. And you can never get to the bottom of it.
I get you on that. Roomies, knowledge.
Exactly.
But no, it makes sense. It makes total sense that you kind of have to like experience it in order to release it.
Yeah, and it's just 1 second.
And you're absolutely correct. Most emotions are a few seconds, but how does one kind of like stop themselves from getting caught in that like emotional loop?
So getting caught in that emotional loop, I see as hooks. Like we get hooked into these things. And so what I'll do is, because I'm not immune either. Like I'm looping in hooks too, it's just, we get better and better of catching ourselves, right? So it's like, when I'm hooked in, it's like, okay, cancel that thought. That was not going to serve me. Cancel. What do I want to think instead? Right? So if we can understand that, sometimes what I feel like causes that is we're basing something off the past, something that's happened from the past, right? So it's like, okay, my partner just did that and it made me feel insecure, but that's from the past of a past relationship, right? So it's like, instead of getting triggered by it, it's like, okay, I'm aware what just happened. Okay. What this person just said to me, I got fully triggered. I explore that and come to the understanding of that. And I can either speak about it with the person to clear it, or I can have that conversation with myself to realize, where is that wound coming from? And okay, clear. What do I want to feel? What do I want to believe instead? Because a lot of this stuff, this trauma is not in the present moment. It's from the past. But what happens is, someone's like, well, what's my future? Well, listen, I know right now your future is going to be nothing more than what you've thought in the past until you overcome this emotion. Right? Because why? Because the trajectory of your future won't change if you're thinking the same things, you're feeling the same things, you're experiencing the same reality. It's going to be more of the same bandwidth, more of the same garbage.
I got that. And somebody who helps people with not only their current trauma and like seeing their future, but can people like change their future? Like, all right. So so the question I'm really getting at is, when we come down, when we incarnate, does everybody have like a destiny or like something they have to achieve here, or is it more like a free will thing and we're able to choose and like shift through timelines, and like if we heal ourselves this way, we could go from like destiny A to destiny B kind of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how I've seen it as connecting with so many people that have passed is that our soul comes in with lessons that it wants to learn. Okay. Unconditional love, forgiveness, whatever. Okay. So then we have free will. We come down and we're connected with the all. We're connected in oneness, right? We're connected to everything. We come down, we drop down into separateness. So now we're experiencing reality separate, right? And it's these experiences that we have to experience to finally get to the lesson, right? So what I've seen is, when someone's more honest, like the more trauma that someone's had early on in life, the person has more gifts to give to the world, because they've been broken open to soul so early on in life, right? And a lot of times what's been withheld from us, so we haven't had love, we haven't had safety or security, what's been withheld from us is now the gift that we have to give to ourselves and to others, right? So if someone, came down here to learn unconditional love, what do you think they're going to have to experience? A lot of conditions with love, right? So that's kind of how I view something when someone's sitting in front of me, versus this is what happened to them. This is horrible. This is trauma. This is so much, right? I'm more seeing it from a soul perspective and a soul view of, this is what had to happen to them in order for them to be who they are right now.
I get that. And from your point of view, right? Are you always able to like tap into everybody that you meet? Is it like always on, or is it more of a like you could like tap into one person at a time, or is it just like this overwhelming field of like information?
So that's a great question, because I'm going to answer it for the viewers. I'm going to answer it from my perspective. So my perspective is, I am not always on, like I can turn off, right?
Okay.
Because if whatever, but at any moment I'd sit with somebody, I can just download and know exactly what's happening with them. From the perspective of the viewers, in the beginning, this was not how it was. It's like overwhelming, right? And that's how it usually comes in for someone. Like, they're super sensitive and they're too sensitive to the environment. They're in sensory overload, right? They get too overstimulated in their nervous system. So a way that what has to happen next for anybody experiencing that out there is they have to get grounded. So grounding is going outside without your shoes on, 10 to 15 minutes, right? Getting grounded with the earth, because the earth has a frequency that's called the Schumann resonance.
Yeah.
And that resonance is the same resonance that our body is to experience safety in our body. That's the resonance frequency that we have to be in, right? So we want to make sure we're doing that on a daily basis, and that we're doing meditation, because what's happening as we're doing meditation is we're getting more connected to ourselves and less connected to everyone else, right? So that now I know that when I'm sitting with someone, that this is what I'm experiencing, and so when I'm with somebody else, this is what they're experiencing. So I can now have a separation between that, because otherwise before I was too overwhelmed with someone else and what they were experiencing. And that's super common.
Okay. And all right, besides like grounding and meditation, is there any other like tips or ways that people could kind of like tap in and tap out? I guess I would be the terminology I would use.
Well, I'd say that those two things are the most essential, right? But also there's things that will happen automatically, but someone's diet's going to change too, because we're carbon based, like the more we're connected into the physical work, the more density we're experiencing. So we can kind of just look at someone, I mean, at least I can, and people that are empaths can look at someone and see how much density, how much they're carrying energetically, right? And so as we start to do this work of like releasing this stuff, I see it as like shedding layers, right? As we start to shed some of these layers, the more light we have coming into our bodies, and that automatically changes our diet, because we're going to be more prone to eating more light foods, more things that have higher frequency, like vegetables and fruits and stuff, still needing the meat for grounding, but it's more light density foods, that we're going to be drawn to, more cold to, as a result of this work. And that's going to make us feel more tapped in, right? The heavier we're feeling energetically, the less we're going to be feel connected in.
I got you on that. And when, all right, so when you're helping people, if you're able to influence somebody's life, how do you make sure that you're helping them and not like accidentally like changing like their direction in life, or like changing their destiny?
Yes. Okay. So I am super careful about that. And so when someone asks me about their future, I will never give them like, and sometimes they get upset, but the thing is, I'm never going to give them a direct answer. I'm going to say that I see all these potentials and possibilities. Like, you have a talent here, you have the ability here, this is untapped, there's a block here, and this is what's possible, this reality, and if you unblock this, start accessing this is your fullest potential, right? And if I have only 10 minutes with someone, or 30 minutes or whatever, I'm always helping them to transform their identity, the way that they see themselves, the way that they're operating life, and help them to heal. So I'm never using this. Sometimes people, like, well, I don't want to hear anything bad. I'm like, I'm not going to share anything bad, like, with them of something. Everything that I share is for healing only.
Okay.
For them to transform, for them to alchemize whatever they're experiencing. And see, this is the reality, is that nothing bad has ever happened to somebody anyway. It's like, maybe the ego doesn't like what they're experiencing, that breakup, that job loss, or whatever they're experiencing. But the reality is, the soul is always evolving and growing. So the soul is sometimes putting in obstacles and situations that your ego is not going to like, a breakdown of things that are happening, but it's for you to evolve.
No, I get that. So have you ever, well, maybe not you, but in the instance of that, you're like tapping into somebody's future, would you kind of like give them like little hints of like, hey, maybe if you, let's say, for instance, go on daily walks and, ground yourself a little bit more, you're helping them prevent like a future ailment or something of that nature.
Well, so I'll always say if there's an ailment or
Yeah.
for them to check out something. So if I see something like urgent, like I'm going to tell somebody, right? But but I always see like what is the person's potential and tell them that, hey, this is potential possibility. Like these are all potentials, right? And you need to activate and change for this potential possibility to be a reality,
I
right?
got you.
Because for them to get to that highest timeline that they're possibly seeking or not even seeking is a vibrational frequency change. But we have to change our lives to change the vibrational frequency that we're operating at.
I get that. I get that.
In this physical reality, we're operating at a lower frequency, right? A slower frequency. When we start to meditate, when we start to be more conscious, we're operating fast. And that frequency rises up and we can manifest at a faster rate of things. Why? Because we're more connected to source.
I get that. I get that. And what made you to like start going on like the chat rooms and like helping people out and like giving random readings to people? What started all of that?
So just so everybody knows on here, so I go on for readings on this site called Omegle. And it's not a site that people are looking for readings. They're literally looking for just to connect with people all over the world. And I initially went on there to get my hours for school and to get a lot of practice because these people don't have any expectation. They're not looking for a psychic reading. A lot of them might not even believe in it. And so it allowed me to be more free to express myself and to work out things with people because spirit speaks in symbols, but it's almost like if I had my own dictionary that I have to build because like if I get a boat, it's my interpretation of the boat, but I have to get it multiple times to get it. So if, for instance, like now it's like my normal symbol is a cross. If I get a cross, I know this person was religious. It's like, but that might be different for another medium, right? So as I'm doing thousands of these readings, sometimes I'll sit there for 8 hours a day just doing these readings. I'm building my dictionary of communicating with spirit. And the more that I communicate with spirit, the more I can connect in and build that relationship, the better I become. And I want to be a master of my craft.
No, it's dope because and Roomies, go check out her Instagram. I'm gonna put the handle down in the description. The clips are fire. Like they're super. Not only are you giving people the helping people out, but it's so entertaining as well. You know what I mean? Because people have expressed they're like, oh my god, you're blowing people's minds. So Roomies, make sure to go check them out. It's awesome. It really is, and it's fire. But it's cool. It's cool to see like you like blow people's minds and like you tell them, oh, your aunt, have you had this person? And they'll be like, yeah, that's my aunt, whatever. They're like, yeah, she wants to let you know that the guy you messing with ain't really for you, sweetheart. Like, get your shit together. But it's so cool though. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I believe it. Do you have like any like stories of like you helping somebody and they like try to like reach back out to you to like thank you and all that?
A lot of times, like I don't tell people who I am, that makes them feel less secure. Like I'm trying to create safety, for them to feel safe to help them. So, but I've saved so many people from suicide because these people that are on there are a lot of times they don't have anybody to connect with. They're lost. They're connecting with a stranger because they feel lonely, right? So it's like just helping them to understand what they're experiencing, kind of feeling understood. Like I see them fully. Like I see them, I understand what they're going through and why they're going through it is healing for the person and can change the trajectory of anybody's life, even not even on that site. Just somebody understanding what you're going through and like connecting with that. It's like, yes.
Do you have like any memorable stories you would like to share with the audience? If that's cool.
Yeah. So let's see. I have I feel like just it's so fascinating connecting with spirit because I like don't trust either. You know, it's like I have to, when I'm psychic, I can connect with somebody, right? I'm in control. But when I'm connecting with spirit, I'm in the back seat listening to the spirit. And I have to allow them to guide me versus me being in control. So that's been like a little bit of a challenge. But one a time in the very beginning when I was starting, I was still building my trust with myself. And I said to this person that I had this, and this person wanted to know, and this is when it's scary. Okay. When the person wants to know something that could change their whole perspective, they wanted to know if their dad committed suicide or if it was an accident and he had fallen off the balcony, right? Or if it was he intentionally committed suicide. Okay, and he had already been going through a lot in many years, so they weren't sure. And there was a lot of pressure for me to answer that. And I had three women, three daughters of his that were present with me. And I wanted to make sure I got the right answer, And so a lot of times I build up the evidence first to make sure I'm connected with the person. And he told me that he had a xylophone. Okay. And she said, like, I don't know anything about the xylophone. Like, I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. And she's like, let me check. So she called the wife, his wife, and the wife said that he was into meditation. He did his meditation retreats and he brought his xylophone everywhere with him when he traveled all over the world. And to me, that was like confirmation. Okay, this person knows nothing about it. Okay. Yeah. So like I couldn't, this is something that I know that the spirit is talking to me, confirm, and then I can give them this information with truth that this is correct. And stuff like that, it's like I have to validate from the spirit with evidence first before I give any sort of confirmation of that type of heavy information. And that stuff really transforms me. Every time I have a spirit contact with me and connect with me, I am evolved. I am changed because it's information that I wouldn't know, that sometimes I'm becoming more enlightened by these connections. So it's like, oh, I didn't know this. Like, I should be doing this.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Besides that one, has any other like readings you've had like really stuck out with you and like kind of like changed your perspective a little bit?
I feel like it's just a lot of trauma that I've seen that people are carrying generationally. And so throughout these readings, I go into the lineage line. So I'm trying to help heal generational lines. So that's always my objective when I'm going into this. So what I do first is pull the lineage line. What's been the thread that everyone's experienced? And I've noticed in every reading that I've done is like, okay, grandma experienced this event, this situation. Now, mom experienced this event, different situation, different circumstance, same energetic, the same way that the person sitting in front of me has experienced it, but in a different circumstance or situation, but energetically has been the same. And how I see that is they've had something called phantom syndrome, where the person is experiencing pain. They cut off their arm and they're still having the pain, even though because energetically, the person never dealt with something with something. It's like a betrayal, a hate in the lineage line or something that happened. The person never energetically dealt with the emotions. So then like the person sitting in front of me is carrying it. And then if they don't really sit with it and be with it energetically, then the next generation has to carry it.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy. And Allison, thank you so much. I've learned so much today, and you're so cool, and like, so your energy is amazing. So before I actually let you go, one final question. This is a question I ask all my guests: is do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or advice for the roomies?
So, as a collective, we are moving into a time we're going to see more darkness in the world. But the reality that darkness has always been there, it's just been hiding. And now, as more light comes onto the planet, because the planet is actually vibrating a higher frequency, so our bodies are going to start to match that. So we're having to, some of us are trying to, are having to uproot our lives, and our lives are going through a lot of chaos right now, because what's happening is the things that are been vibrating at a lower frequency for you now have to rise. You have to rise in frequency, right? And so what's happening is that we're going to see so much more of that darkness, and we might get afraid, but there's nothing to be afraid of as long as we're walking in the light and we're staying aligned with the light and with connected to that larger source of energy, because that allows us to be on purpose. And when people feel on purpose, they feel better about their lives. And really, through all this that we're going to experience over the next several years, we have to be connected to that source of energy and feel on purpose, whatever it is. There's nothing you have to do. It's a beingness where you feel like you're being on purpose. In our society, we're so connected to doing, but it's a beingness. And I could be working at Burger King and be that light to impact others.
I get that. I get that. So, roomies, I usually give a good ending statement, but I think you took it. So, roomies, make sure to check out Allison. Her stuff is amazing, and she doesn't only help people; she really like entertains, and she really puts a smile on people's faces. With that, peace out.